Well, I've got exactly 2 weeks until this old F-150 here needs to be racing around a track up in Michigan, and I'm breaking the one golden rule of taking vehicles to Roush, and that's don't get connected to them. Don't use them. Don't have any sentimental attachment. Don't make them useful around the property, just go destroy them. Well, right now, she's really useful for a basement project, but once this is done today, we're going to get her in the garage, hopefully get the front brakes figured out. By figured out, I mean we're just going to get rid of them and give her a sick paint job, hopefully. But before any of that can happen, I got a bed full of block right now from a foundation project that we're working on in the house. And that'll be out in another video, kind of making that a whole thing, multiple days, weeks of recording that. But we're currently in the middle of replacing foundation here in my house. I've been using this as a trash bin for all the old block. And then I got to thinking this morning, before we take this window out and block it in, I got a bunch of junk and wood and stone down the basement that needs to come out. And if I don't do it now, keep them out this window and in my truck bed, I have one of two options. One, I'll have to go out that window and into a trailer with my lawnmower because I can't fit a truck up here. Or two, I might have to carry them up the cellar door and up a bunch of stairs. So this is my best, quickest option. It's also starting to rain a lot heavier. So we're going to heave everything out the window, load it in the truck bed, clear up a big part of the basement project, and also make use of the F-150 before it possibly dies at Roush and I don't have it anymore. I guess while we're here, this isn't technically the F-150 video, but I'll show you why we're doing this. Here is my basement and what we're doing down here. So both front corners of my property, when I bought this house, they had no gutters that were packed full, and it was just draining all the water right on these front two corners. So pretty much all the foundation block was failing. So 2.5 years later, finally going through, got the house jacked up yesterday with a buddy, and got a lot of this out, and then you can't really see it, but poured a new concrete pad right there. There we go. We were hoping to go all the way to the window and replace up to here because that was junk anyways and just has metal on it. But sadly, the high spot of the house is right here, and by us jacking this up like 2 inches plus probably, it put a more load on this. And we were worried that if we kept going right to the edge of this wall, we weren't sure, how much pressure we wanted to put on that. So we're gonna have to clear a spot out here and then jack this up separately. Y'all can probably see how much this heaves down actually just in video, just on that window frame. But essentially we're gonna have to jack off the main floor here, which means we have to move all this dirt. So a little bit of a setback, but we will get that front part done, which was the worst part, and then reposition and do the rest of this at a later date. But all of this wood and block and stone that you see all came out of up here on top of this crawl space area. So this is kind of what this looked like in the beginning, and then there's a lot more dirt on the edges as well, but there's just so much trash up in the top of this. So I spent about 4 or 5 hours digging out both these corners. I mean, we were like all but 6 or 8 inches from the top here with dirt. So I spent a couple nights digging all that out, and that is what all of this is now on the floor. And the dirt I have a use for. That I will have the bucket out of here 5 gallon buckets at a time, and then I can use that as grade actually to go around my foundation when we're all done and grade more water away from the house anyways. It's already pretty well on a hill, but just over time it gets flattened out right at the edge of the foundation there. So that's what a lot of this is, and it'll just be filled dirt, but that'll take a summer project. This stuff is all just junk that needs to go, so we're gonna start chucking it out this window instead. I got my little path cut out through the window there. For some reason I wasn't even thinking about all the dirt that was here in front of this window, but so we can get that out there pretty easy now. I think I made the decision I'm gonna go ahead and unload the block that's in the back of the truck now. There's already probably half a truck bed to load, and it's an F-150, so who knows how much she can take. No, not really, but problem here is I put all my wood in front of this pile and all the block in the back. So to load just the block up, I'm gonna have to walk around this, and I don't want to put the wood on top of it and have to sort back through it because the wood's all going out to a burn pile. So I'm gonna go get rid of the block, come back here, do the wood, take that out of the burn pile, come back here, do that block. Let's get to it. I'll say one thing too while I'm out here at my building supplies pile. Not really, it's more or less just a pile of rubble. But being able to live out in the country and just have piles to get rid of your stuff is the best thing in the world. If I lived in the city and actually had to pay to get rid of this, man, I'd probably be broke. But I mean, you can just dig you a hole, make you a burn pit. Anything burnable that you can just collect, throw in a pit. Eventually just have a bonfire. Down there, pretty small right now, but we got a small just fill dirt pile, or actually more topsoil pile down there actually. My fill dirt's up in another spot of like kind of chunky material. And then this corner here, I call it rock pile corner, which y'all saw the fence post out to you last week as well. I haven't chopped them up obviously, but this was all like the brick and whatnot from the house, a lot of rock from the track, just some concrete slabs I found when I moved down here. And it's out of the way. Am I ever going to use it? Probably not. Am I ever going to haul it away? Probably not. But I can use it to make a pile and call it good. It's one of the best things I've found out about living in the country. Alright, we got about an hour update here. We got all the wood out of here in the truck bed. Luckily all on one side, so I should be able to pull it out, throw it in the burn pit pretty easy without having to dig back through it. And then working on getting the rest of the block out of here. I got most of the big stuff out of here, like the two-hander stuff to kick out that window. And I started throwing out like anything that was slightly over hand size. And I got to thinking, I'm like, I'll just start putting them in this trash can over here, and I can carry that out. And then I'm like, I got all these buckets that I was planning on doing concrete in. And then we ended up getting that mixer, so that worked out pretty well. But make use of these buckets, and I'll just put all this stuff in buckets and carry it out of here instead. So she'll be able to fit pretty much the rest of that in these 4 buckets and trash can. And there's just a couple big pieces left, like stuff like that. No sense of putting in the bucket. That will keep out the window. Get her loaded up in the truck, and then realistically, unless I find more when I dig, everything up here is just dirt. There are a couple pieces of wood and whatnot I see buried yet, but you know, I can deal with that down the road. The majority of getting the front crawl space area cleaned out and back to dirt, and then I'll get the floor cleaned up and swept again, and then we'll just have 2 dirt piles down here again. That'll be awesome to see. I'm definitely the kind of guy, whether it's this or a garage project or whatever, just cleaning stuff up and organizing it makes it seem so much better in your head. At least for me, that's how it is. It clears up like a headspace of like, all right, we have this project and we have this, and this to do, but we don't have 14 piles of just mess laying around here to also work around, and you know where stuff is and what to do. And it definitely helps out taking the time to clean up mid-project, time or two, depending on how long it is, instead of just piling everything till the end. You can officially see the floor again, so that's always a pleasant sign. So now all that's left is loading the rest of that block up that's outside the window there into the bed of the truck, get it out back. I've also got them 4 or 5 buckets worth to pick up on the way. Put them out back, and then I think we're going to call it a day on the basement project. I wasn't even planning on doing this today. I think we're coming back to the foundation issue on Tuesday, but I figure it's raining out, and it's kind of crappy anyways, and it's actually really, really cool down here right now, so that's a plus. But I do want to get the F-150 cleaned up today and washed. I know, wild statement, right? The only reason I'm doing that is so the paint sits to it. I want to throw a paint scheme on before racing at Roush. And I'd like to have that done today so it can go back out by Monday, hopefully, sit and dry tomorrow. So there's the plan. Well, we got the truck bed unloaded, decided to wash it. She actually doesn't look all too bad. Rims still look like shit where calipers are locked up, but we're gonna not pay attention to that. You can pressure wash the engine bay, so that'll probably cause a whole bunch of electrical issues that we're not gonna worry about later. And well, we're bored enough now waiting on all these cracks and crevices to dry up so I can paint this thing and get a nice race-ready finish on her. Figure we might as well sweep her out and really just kill my time. So when this thing blows up, I've got way too many hours invested in detailing it. She's not super dirty, but she's not super clean either, so we're just going to hit her with a quick vacuum, maybe wipe the dash down and call it a day. We're not doing windows, we're not throwing armor all on it. We're giving her a solid 10-minute detail job. I told myself 2 weeks ago I wasn't doing a damn thing to this truck except for beating it up in the woods, and now I'm in here vacuuming the carpet. But she cleaned up pretty good. Honestly, not a bad little rig, I tell you what. Well, it's officially that time we broke out the stencil from the Honda, and luckily it works pretty well on the size of the door here. Between that and an outline on there, should be pretty good sizing. Got it pretty well centered up on the front door here. Tried out the back, didn't like it. Got a couple other ideas for the two-tone as well, and a couple bed stencils, ideas, sponsors, quote unquote, we'll say. We're going to go ahead and get this slapped on here, and then pull that off, go to the other side. Luckily, it can also line up directly with the edge of the mirror here, and move her around pretty well, and then the top line is in line with the door handle, so pretty easy to move side to side versus some other vehicles I've done. Alright, we're back out here Sunday morning. All we got done last night was the number on there, and I still want to do an outline on that in different colors, but I want to get all the rest of the orange knocked out that I have planned for that, which is going to be the Omens Automotive and then also AAH Racing going on here, and we'll see what else we can come up with if we do any designs. But let me show you my process for putting some lettering on this truck and how I measure it out and figure out where to put it. So the first part of laying out any sort of stenciling or lettering on a vehicle is figuring out where you want to put it and how you want your overall design to look. The last thing you want to do is go laying one thing down and then putting vignette section down, being like, oh, I wish I would have flowed this differently or put it here. So you want to kind of have a general idea of the whole paint scheme of your vehicle before you start. Now, the first thought I had last night was to put the Omens Automotive down here on the silver of the doors, and then put the AAH Racing back in here, kind of like it is on Vicky, but that's a sticker on Vicky. But I have a personal opinion on the lettering that starts and stops not centered. This is going to be kind of hard to explain. But on the driver's side of your vehicle, your lettering is always going to flow correctly. It's going to be left to right, front to back, as it should be. This is a big reason why, if you guys ever look at drift cars up close, and you won't notice it like in videos and whatnot, because the liveries are so cool, and there's so much going on in a lot of drift cars that you're like, oh, it's just the same side to side. But if you ever look at them up close, sometimes the passenger side of those cars, if it's a true like Japanese style livery, will actually be backwards. So that way the style is the same side to side without flipping the lettering around. And you'll be like, why is the entire passenger side of the car backwards? And that's why. So if we were to put the Omens Automotive down here, you have a choice of, do you center it to where there's a gap on both sides, or do you start at the front? And like I said, on this side, it'd be cool. It'd be Omens Automotive, and it'd probably end up somewhere around here. I wouldn't go all the way across the bottom because that'd be some big lettering, but it would solve your centering issue. But then on this side, if you were to start on the driver's side at the front, say you end up here, or here. Now you have Omens Automotive that starts in the middle of the door. It's not a big issue, but for some reason it's not laying out correctly in my head. So that led me to wanting to kind of move it up and to the bed, which you can say, you know, the start of the bed is no different than the start of the door. You have the same issue, but I don't know, I don't know, I think it'll fit better. It's really hard to explain the reasoning for it, but I just don't like the two-tone and the lettering down there. I don't think it's going to look how I think I want it to look. So I think instead we're going to do the Omens Automotive up in here, probably until just about the sticker here, and then we'll still do the AAH Racing smaller down here, and that will leave this whole bottom for a different design and also the door, because I kind of have another idea, but it depends on how much time I want to put into this. But, so we're going to go ahead and measure out the Omens Automotive here, figure out how big my lettering can be, and how much spacing I need. What I'm going to do here is measure from, we're essentially going to start right on the edge of this, or just in slightly. So we'll take, say, a ½ inch off this total, because you don't want your letter, at least I don't, on the edge of the bed there. So we're at 57.5 to the sticker here, which we might as well make use of this whole area, so we'll say 57 total. Get you a dry erase marker, and you can make all your marks and take these off later with no issue. And you can just have them right in front of you. So now, you have your total, and we can also figure out our height here, which is really going to be decided by your gas cap door in this sense. You're looking at, say, about 6 inches to be safe. Make sure that 6 inches fits here as well, which it does tightly. So if we run this top line here, I'm going to freehand these and not stencil them. So my letters are all going to start off this top line, and then I will mark my 6-inch line and make sure they're all somewhat similar. If this was a more lasting car that I cared more about, I'd probably stencil these, but I don't want to take the time to do all that. One other thing to take note of here too is think of any differences side to side that you might not notice. So say if I was laying all this out on the passenger side and this gas cap was an inch higher and I didn't even think about it, I could do that whole passenger side, come over here and be like, oh, this is in the way. So make sure whatever you're doing on both sides works on both sides. You know, if there's a gas cap or if there's a light that might be different or some little mount of some sort, you can change vehicle to vehicle, or like if you're doing a roof line, you know, it could have a little antenna on one side and not the other. Take that into account because you don't want to have to work around that or cut parts out. Alright, so the next thing you're going to want to do once you figure out your total width you want to use is figure out how many letters your wording, your logo, whatever it might be has. For me, Omens Automotive has 15 total letters, and then take into account too your spacing for in between there. So for me, I like to space the wording more than one letter gap, so I'm going to do 2. So essentially we need 17 equal spots is what we're looking for. What we're looking to do here is make tick marks along here and figure out how wide each letter can be, because some people might be able to freehand this very well. I wish I could, it'd save me a lot of time. But if I started freehand Omens Automotive on here, it would do one of these, and it'd probably be sideways, and it'd be different widths, and you'd probably run out of room at the end. So for me, it takes 10 minutes to lay this out, and it saves a bunch of time. So we're going to need 17 spaces, so we'll write that down. 17 spaces. Now I already did the math. If you take 57 divided by 17, it's 3.35 inches per space. Now this is where you can simplify it a little bit, and if you're not in an area you have to be the exact size, shrink it down and make it easy. So if you go to 3 1/4, so if you drop 1/10 of an inch across those, it comes out to 55 inches total. So all we're going to do is come in about an inch on each side. So we're going to use 55 total, and then we're going to mark every 3 1/4 inches will be our spacing for these letters. What we're going to do here is just come up top, and we're going to pretty much center up 55 inches. Somewhere right and so. There's a spot on the bed here I'm looking at right now. And we're about an inch out. So we're going to start pretty much right at this plastic here. And I'm going to measure every 3 1/4 inches and make little dash marks here. Now, it's probably a little hard for y'all to see. But I've just got these little tits right up top there, which I won't be painting all the way up on that ridge anyway, so it works pretty good. So next up, all we're going to do is measure down 6 inches. We're going to do it a couple spots, close enough to where I can make a straight-ish line across here and use that as my bottom. Then, if you have a pretty steady hand, just make you a straight line across the bottom of that. And even if it's not perfect on this, I don't really care. So. Yes, you have to definitely move my line up. That's why we use dry erase marker. Also, this is why I don't pinstripe vehicles, if you notice how wavy this line is. Hopefully now y'all can start seeing kind of layout and how this is working. And we can go ahead and make our lines down. Now sometimes your design might be your letters are butted up against each other, so you're going to have to work off tick marks. But my letters are going to have spaces in between, so I'm actually going to align these. Otherwise, you might actually put your letters out to where they're going to touch each other, and then that wouldn't be good. Alright, again, if this was something nicer, I'd probably actually take the time to measure out 3 1/4 on the bottom, make sure these are perfectly straight. This is straight enough for me. I know this step also might seem kind of dumb, but for me it does help because I have to do this backwards. If you notice, I've been doing this left-handed, which also means when I paint, I generally do all my lettering backwards. So I'm actually going to do automotive omens. So what I like to do is spell out below what needs to be where. So O-M-A-N-S. There'll be an apostrophe kind of in the center there too. And then we're just gonna etch these out. Because these are gonna be our 2 blanks, which actually go perfectly over gas cap. I didn't even plan that. A-U-T-O-M-O-T-I-V-E. Now there's a couple things. A, you don't lose track where you're at. B, make sure you have the right amount of spaces. C, you can also triple check your spelling. And one of the last things I like to do on something like this when you're not using stencils is make sure you use the right size brush. And now that might seem very obvious, like, well, no shit, I'm not going to use a 3-inch brush on a 3-inch square. But you got to take into account a 1-inch brush is going to work okay on everything, like an S. That'd be a good size S to use that whole thing. Or an A. You can get an A frame in there pretty well. The N's and the M's, in my case, are going to be the base thing. So you have a 1-inch brush and a 3 1/4-inch square. If you kept this brush straight the entire time, you're only going to have a 1/4 inch of gap between those. And technically, it will be 1/8 of an inch because you're splitting that 1/4 in half on the 2 ups of the M. An 1/8 inch at 50 or 100 foot away is not very much. If you were to keep this flat when you do that, it's going to make this just look like a blob. So I think my solution to the ends and the M's are going to be to do the uprights flat and then kind of bring this sideways and use just the tip of this to skinny up the centers, and hopefully that makes it look decent. That's the only one I'm worried about. The other option is to get like a small stencil brush. Another option is you can use foam and or bristle and cut these in half and do it that way. But for the sizing we have, these are probably a bit taller for the width we're using, but it's fine. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as long as you're putting whatever sponsor lettering you want to on the truck and it looks how you want, who cares? Alright, I actually changed my mind a little bit. I moved the AH racing down here to the rear door. Went ahead and knocked it out. A lot easier. This is just 30 sits by sits letters on this one, so it'll be a bit bigger than this. But overall, I think it'll work out good because this is shorter, while this is, fits the bed more. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the exact same thing on the passenger side, get all my measuring done. That way, once I open the paint up, I can go ahead and just knock out all the lettering at one time and be on a roll. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we will come back when we get the paint out. So y'all remember what I said about making sure both sides of whatever you're doing are the same? I didn't do that. So I'm out here marking out my tick marks, and I was counting these, and I got to 16, and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm at the edge of a sticker. But I only have 16, so I double counted these, and I was one short, and I'm like, well, how is that? I ended up almost at the end of the sticker on the other side with 17. So then I come over here, and I start looking down the bed, and well, that's a lot farther back. So I measured from here to here is 16 on this side. On their side, it's 18 and a half. It's a bigger sticker, which is also newer because this one's all faded. I already laid all this out. I'm just going to put the O next to that and call it good. I'm not redoing this. But what's the chances of that? Even after I pointed it out to myself, I didn't even think about the sticker. I figured they were both factory. Alright folks, we are back on Tuesday night, and I'll be honest, I completely forgot to record everything after I lettered this thing. She looks slightly different now than you saw 10 seconds ago. Let me explain what has happened in that time. So on Saturday, I believe was when I was painting this, I really don't remember. I went through, I finished the Omens Automotive, and I think I maybe outlined the 73. I don't know what I did, to be honest with you. What I do know is I came back out Sunday and finished up everything else I was doing. Big house project going on right now. Multiple other small house projects also going on. This was kind of a fill-in. Filming was also kind of a fill-in, if you couldn't tell. I got bored Sunday night, and I finished up all the rest of my painting. So we got the AH racing, and then we outlined everything in white. And we also added this nice little tri-tone of orange on here. So here is the finished paint scheme for the old F-150. I'm not adding anything more, probably. I say that now. We'll see. But we did move on to mechanicals, which is why the hood is up. Now, I'm not sure if I've stated this before or not. Maybe I have. If I did, y'all won't even see this. But the major issue with this that was keeping her from being race ready is the front calipers locked up. Why? Well, the rubber hoses are collapsed. So if you hit the pedal any more than a couple times, the front wheels are just locking up on grass. I've been driving this thing in four-wheel drive, using it around the house, and just not hitting the brakes. It's obviously not going to work racing it, right? So this is what we did. We first took a look under the truck and took a quick glance at the calipers and bleeders and thought, yeah, those are not going to come loose. How about the rubber lines to the steel line connection? Oh yeah, those are also not going to come loose without twisting the lines. Alright, next up, we're just going to cut the line and plug it. So I did record just a quick TikTok, I think. Of course, it's the wrong way. I'm real bad about that on this YouTube thing. Keeping the horizontal and vertical separated, right? Check it out, we're so good to go racing. You put her in drive, she rolls. without gas, which means the front brakes aren't locked up. And then check it out, check it out. You pick up some speed, she stops. Not very quick, but she stops. And full brake. Not too shabby. Honestly, better than the Explorer was. Now, when I'm doing 40 down a trail on dirt, is that gonna stop worth a shit? Absolutely not. Just gonna have to keep that in the back of my mind. But I think we're good. Alright, I think I got it off. We'll see if we can do something cool now. On the track, not on the grass, you know? Oh, she's gonna be a ripper. Oh yeah. This truck's gonna be fun. Should probably just put her in first, eh? Alright, enough testing. She's ready for rush. Anyways, I had to be in kind of a rush. From the time I cut the line, I had to wrap a ride around that master cylinder, wrap some tape around it like it was an alligator's mouth, hop off the truck, grind that down real quick, wire wheel it, weld it, cool it down, and get it back in, all before I lost fluid in the master cylinder. Because if you did, then you'd have to bleed the rears, which kind of defeats the purpose of doing all this, because, well, at that point, you might as well put rubbers on it. So we did that, kept all the fluid in there, got the plug back in, and brakes worked okay. I'm not even going to say great. It's only rear brakes, which if y'all know is like 30% of your brakes. So they will lock the rears up. It brings the truck to a stop. Is it going to be great at 40 or 50 mile an hour off-road? No, absolutely not. But I'm not going hard with this truck. I'm mainly taking it for the night rides anyways, and just to be transportation. I say that now until I get behind the wheel and I'm like, oh yeah, I can race this with brakes like this. We'll see what happens. Either way, the truck stops, and the truck also moves now after you hit the brakes a couple times. It keeps moving, which was a bigger part of the issue. Also made a gigantuous mess on my forward brake fluid, and then I didn't even think about it, drove right through it, and just tracked it all the way out on my nice asphalt driveway. Don't mind that leak that's still underneath there. There's a whole bunch on the frame rail. I probably will go through and actually finish welding this now that it's in here and I don't have to be in a hurry. There is a very, very slight leak. Like if I push my foot to the floor or try to, it will ever so slightly creep down. It's coming out of there. So we'll finish that up, and then mechanically the truck is alright. I'll probably also rip part of the exhaust off. I found that like 2/3 of the exhaust is already broke. Like complete. I thought it just had a hole in it. No, it's like just broke off and it's got one hanger holding it on. Which is probably a lot of the clanking around here going on. Also found a whole heat shield on the driver's side manifold that was just in the engine bay. So I pulled that out. So we'll probably cut that part of the exhaust off and call it good. Apart from that, we have a paint scheme. We cleaned it up. I should probably pull the airbag fuse. I've had airbags go off before at Roush. It's not a fun time. So probably look into that. But apart from that, I do believe the F-150 is race ready for here in just over a week and a half now. Not even. I'll be heading up to Michigan with her. So we need to button up a couple other things on Vicky before 2 weekends away for Silver Lake, and then get back to the house. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off here since this was only the F-150 video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Hopefully these brakes don't screw me over and I don't smoke a tree. We'll find out in a week and a half. So if you enjoyed, give it a like, give it a share, tell your friends, and we will see y'all on the next one.